can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. She say I'm gonna jack you up. I'ma give it to you nice and rough. Come and see me, baby, real close up, 'cause I'ma push you down, I'ma push you down. She say I'll make you lose control. I got the method that can tease the soul. So give me something and I'll give you a show, 'cause I'ma push you down, I'ma push you down. Oh. I'ma push you down. Oh. I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut. Yeah, I can see you with my eyes closed. I can see you with my eyes closed shut.
Those songs are so long. We just saw that.
Yeah, they are. It's like a minute longer than normal.
Yeah, everything on the
slowed
EP
down.
is like 4.5 minutes at least. But everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us back here for Van Philosophy. We've got an awesome topic today. Doing Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with sanitarium, because it's not a sanitarium. It's a sanatorium.
What's the difference?
Well, one's like a psych ward. Mm-hmm. Like a sanitarium, you know.
One is to make people sane, and one is to keep things sanitary. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Like one's like more like a hospital kind of thing, and one's more like a hospital mind kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's like one comes from the word sanity, and one comes from sanitize.
Sanitize.
Yeah, I was like, why can't I think of the word right now?
Sanitize or airy. But before we get into our topic of Waverly Hills, what's our updates, man? We got shows coming up in March.
Yeah, we're gonna be back in Somerville.
At
Montrose.
At Montrose? Mm-hmm. You got a little hair hanging from your
little thing.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Got you. What's up, everybody in the chat? Thank you guys for being here. But yeah, it's March 18th that we're going to be at Montrose, back in Somerville. Also, update on the new cover. I just showed Kyle some of the stuff. He sent me over some new guitar tracks today. And I'm getting this close, and we should be shooting the video probably at the very beginning of the week, is what I'm thinking. And then probably put it out for Patreon later that week.
Cool.
Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things you can't
See
really.
what happens.
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be earlier.
You can have a plan,
It could be later.
but that plan just might just take a dive.
Take a total dive. Yeah. But yeah. So besides that, what's been up with you this week?
Well, I was gonna say like I was doing guitar tracks, but you kind of already said that.
I did,
You kind
I
of just
said it.
stole my thunder. I was
Stole
about to
it.
be like, hey man, I'm working on
Yeah.
these guitar tracks.
I know it's Kyle's birthday. It's your birthday. I picked the blue one
Yeah.
because blue's like one of your favorite colors.
Because like if I was green, I would die. If I was green, I would die. If
Yeah.
I was
How old are you?
I'm 34.
34.
I made it past. You know, it's like when you got to make it past 27.
Yeah.
You got to make it past 33.
Right.
So now it's like, whatever.
33 was a pretty cool year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
33. Yeah. That was like 18 years ago.
18 years ago, and I was 33.
No, it wasn't. It
Was it like 2 years ago?
Yeah, no, 3.
3 years ago?
Yeah, you're 3 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I will say with the guitar tracks though, the GT1000, it is so much more streamlined for recording.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I sent you I sent you a couple tracks, but there was one you were like, hey, we need to go back and look at this, and it was so fast. As far as just like how it plugs in and it works, and you could do extra things. You can do reamping.
Right. Well, you actually use it as an interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like.
And you plug your headphones directly into the unit and it gives you...
Yeah, it's just, you're basically like, you're just using the unit and you can record it and it's super easy. There's no like, you barely even have to hook it up. You just gotta plug it into the computer.
Right, it's like using this dude right here, right? So it's like everything that
Yeah.
you've been monitoring out of your DAW is through the pedal.
Yeah, and everything is preset up, so there's no like, having to like adjust your gains just right every time.
Right.
It's like you set it once and it's right and you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool.
Yep.
What have you been up to?
I've been keeping up with Kyle's, his, what is it called? Your advancements on your case on Patreon.
Oh yeah, I did another post on like Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the bottom just about put together. I got all the hardware and everything's like stained and polyed.
Yeah.
And I still gotta do the top. Maybe I'll try to do it this weekend.
Do the top. No, I've just been working on the new cover. I've been doing that and reflecting on Oyster Fest, which was an awesome time, by the way. Thank you guys for being there. Nancy and Steve, I know you guys were there out in the crowd. We had a really good time.
Yeah.
It was
It was a lot of fun.
It's been a long time since I've played in front of like that many people.
Like a few thousand people.
Yeah, they said like they had like 3,000 pre-sales, but there was probably like closer to 4,000 people actually there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was super nervous, but like I think like we talked about afterwards, it's kind of funny because like leading up, you're like so nervous, you're kind of like anxious about everything, and then the best part is like when it's over. Because it's like...
Because you have a sense
finally,
of accomplishment.
Finally, okay.
Yeah, like I won that battle.
I don't have to worry about it anymore. Well, I was because we've been working really hard on the live sound, and we've been tweaking everything, recording everything, and then after we got off stage, the sound guy actually came back to the back of the stage. He was like, man, it sounds so good.
That was really cool. Because we only dealt with the monitor engineer.
Yeah.
And the stage manager.
Right.
And like there's some stage hands. Like there's a bunch of people, but we didn't really deal with the main engineer. Everything was like radioed to him.
Well, he was like he's back in
there.
the yeah.
So yeah, it was cool to actually get to meet him and have him say nice things.
Yeah, I thought it was really rad. But that's about it, man. That's all I've been up to. Doing that, working in the store, thinking about your birthday and how I'm never getting you gifts.
You're just your presence is presence enough.
Well, I honestly just think you don't deserve it.
I don't.
So.
I don't. I have a lot of things I don't deserve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But anyway, I hope you guys have had a good week. Hope you guys have had cool stuff going on. But let's get into our topic, man, because this is going to be a bit of a long one, it seems. We're going to try the whole thing where we've got some pictures prepared and everything. Hopefully it goes over okay. But let's get into it, man. So, like, Waverly Hills Sanatorium, what is it? When did it open?
It's funny that you say that because I remember thinking like, is a sanatorium and a sanitarium the same thing? Have I been saying it wrong? Because I have it written down, sanatorium.
Yeah.
And like I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, it was a former sanatorium located in Jefferson County, Kentucky, and it opened in 1911, and it closed the first time it closed was in 1961. So the reason why it opened is there was a big outbreak of tuberculosis in the early 1900s in Kentucky and Ohio.
Yeah.
Tuberculosis had been around. They called it consumption. But when it kind of came around again, this time they called it the White Plague.
I can tell you're from the north.
Why?
Because you say plague.
Plague.
Yeah, it's plague.
Plague.
Yeah.
Plague. That's too much work for my face.
It's plague.
That's too much work for my face to do.
It's plague. It's not plague.
Plague. Okay. What's the thing that you put cream cheese on in the morning and you toast it?
A bagel.
A bagel.
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 Not bagel, but a bagel.
See, to me it sounds like bagel.
Right? Yeah. No.
It's a bagel.
It's not a bagel.
Bagel. Like I have a thing that I carry to the grocery store. Like I bring my own bagel. That's how I say it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's how I say it. Get into it.
So
the White Plague. They call it the White Plague.
The white.
Yeah.
The bad thing. The white bad thing.
Sure.
We'll call
Yeah.
it. So anyway, it was developed as a sanatorium, not a sanitarium.
Not to be confused with. Yeah.
To house people that were very sick with TB.
Yeah. I think originally they were like built to house like what 40, 50 people.
Yeah, it was only 40 or 50 people in
Yeah.
1911. So then in 1912 they added 50 more beds, and then in 1914 they added like another 50 or 60 beds because they added a children's ward, and the children's ward, and this kind of sounds a little messed up to me. They said it was built to house either sick children or kids that whose parents were sick and didn't know how to take care. So it kind of seemed like they were putting the well kids and the sick kids together.
They didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't
It was
realize.
very, very contagious.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculously contagious.
Right.
And it was a really horrible, horrible way to die.
Yeah.
So then in 1926, or at least by 1926, it was like this, huge 5-story complex could house over 400 patients.
Right.
So it was just like, they're like, oh, it's getting worse. Let's add more beds. Oh, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And it just kept getting worse for 10 years.
Sure.
Over 10 years.
It was intense. Do you
years,
know like really what the effects of tuberculosis were? Do you have any of those kind of facts?
It's a lung disease.
Yeah.
This version was bacterial. I think there is a viral version of it, or it has similar symptoms that causes tubes to inflame and things like that. But this was a bacterial version. It was really nasty. I know it would make it so you couldn't breathe. People would cough up blood. Just a very, very painful, horrible way to die.
Sure.
Starting from your lungs.
Yeah.
And
Real quick though, Nancy does say here that it is not bagel. Yeah.
it is not bag.
I'm just glad I got people on my side.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's the whole thing.
You're wrong.
Only Kyle in the entire universe.
I'll say what I want.
Bagel. But yeah, I think even because originally before it was there, I think there was actually a school.
Is that what it was? I didn't find what it was before that. I found
Yeah, it was a school, and it was called Waverly Schools because the guy that owned it, it was his house, and there wasn't any like close by back then. There wasn't any close by school, so he had to open his own school for the children.
Was he an author? I saw something
Yes,
about.
he was an author, and he had like Waverly novels, is what they were called, the Waverly novels.
Okay, so it was his place, and then I do know that when the hospital opened, they said they wanted to use Waverly Hills as the name because of the books.
Right.
So I didn't know that it was actually his property.
Yeah.
So that even makes more sense as why they named it that.
Yeah.
Because they said because like treatment for this, we can pull up, I think we got a little photo.
Okay, this is treatment for TB.
Yeah.
Is it TB? I know what they call it.
Yeah, TB. Now that's what they call it. They call
Yeah.
it the White Plague.
Plague. Yeah.
Okay.
It's plague.
Or consumption. It's called consumption.
Yeah.
So they didn't have antibiotics until the mid-40s, at least. So they had to treat it with everything from like fresh air to heat lamps, and they would try to like boost morale. And like that was one of the reasons why they named it Waverly Hills, is because they really liked the books. They thought it was peaceful. They thought it would be a good environment to heal. When like it was kind of like, we're going to give you a warm blanket and fresh air and good vibes, and hopefully that heals you. You know, be like, so we're called Waverly Hills.
I know you're sick,
because those are great books.
I need to make you happy.
And like it's kind of funny to talk about that now, but that was like, that's what they had.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But on top of that,
were they still doing bloodletting and things back then?
I know they did some weird stuff. The weird stuff that I found is that there were surgeons on site that were doing experimental surgeries. And some people say that they were doing these surgeries and they weren't getting consent to the patients. Some people are saying that they were like, hey, we'll try this, you know, if you want us to.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell if it was like, you know, because it's one of the most haunted places now, if it was like, that's why it's haunted. Sure. It's kind of hard to tell. It did kind of seem like the doctors had, like they wanted to heal people, you know what I mean? For the most.
Kyle knew him personally. He interviewed him.
Yeah. Well, at least in reporting, it didn't say like, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's some like
mad scientists. I just love your
like
your overly like optimistic approach to it. Like, oh, I bet they were just trying to help.
They're probably just trying to help.
Who knows? But they were good doctors.
Who knows? Who knows? They were doing the best as they could.
Kyle knew him. Yeah.
At the time.
Okay.
At least with modern medicine,
right.
is my point.
Right. So they were treating. They did like experimental.
Yeah. So what they would do is, because like people, they would say, I can't breathe, it hurts so bad. They weren't sure what to do, so they would remove ribs on some of the patients to try to see if they could get the lungs to expand farther, so that you could get more oxygen, so you're not just gasping for breath.
Sure.
And that didn't work.
Sure.
It like
I don't think it would.
Caused like it made like a very bad situation way worse.
That's like, I've got a headache, let me remove a little chunk of brain.
Yeah. So like, that's what they tried to do.
Right.
With or without consent, I'm not sure. You know?
Sure.
And then on another thing that they would do is that they would pump air, and I think I don't know if that's what that machine is back there.
It's possible.
They would pump air into people's lungs, but it wasn't like respirators that we have now. It was like they're like pumping air into someone's lungs that are already like, and like causing them to expand and like over expand so that you get enough oxygen, you know? And that did not work, and it made things like way worse. So like all the people that had the experimental surgeries like died in way more pain because of it. So it's like, it's creepy to think about. And to me, it makes it creepier that like they were probably just trying to help, and that's what makes it like so like, oh my god, like that's so creepy. There's some guy be like, I'm going to heal you. And he's like, I'm gonna cut out all your ribs. You know what I mean?
Cut all your ribs out.
I was like, read that, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. No. So they were doing crazy treatments. They were doing experimental treatments, pumping air into the lungs, removing ribs of all things. Maybe bloodletting. Probably not at that point. I don't know when they stopped doing that.
I'm not sure. I mean, like,
I'd imagine
it was the early 1900s. Like, they were doing lots of weird stuff.
Yeah.
I know for a while, I don't know if it was at this time, but if you were a doctor, it wasn't considered like the prestigious thing that it is now, where you have to go to school for a very long time.
Right,
And you have lots of social liability and all those things that we have now.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, if you were a doctor for a very long time, in the United States even, it was like, that was like a low trade.
Yeah.
You know
I mean, just to give some context here, I mean, a good friend of mine sent me a text about why they invented the chainsaw. Do you know why they invented the chainsaw?
I want to say to chop down trees, but
No,
I
it's
feel
not.
like that's probably not why. It's probably something really disturbing.
No, it's to cut through pelvic bone.
Oh yeah?
It was invented by doctors. Yeah. Yeah, to get through it.
We had to. Well, you know what? I mean,
Amputate.
Good
you know?
thing, because like, you remember like you see movies where they're like, give him a quart of whiskey and have him bite on a stick, and he's cutting him with a hacksaw.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And like, the weird thing to think about is life was like that for way longer than it is
Oh, sure. Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Because with like all of the advancements we have now
Yeah.
are like pretty new in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And that's insane.
Steve here says, we look back at how diseases and such were treated back in the day. It is going to be fascinating to hear what people think of what we're doing today in 60 or 80 years. Which is so true, because like right now, what we're doing could be like considered like primitive. Whenever we have like some kind of like scanning machine, you hit the button, and then it's like, and it fixes your sail, your sail. Your sails.
Say it again. No, I can tell you're from the south.
Yeah, I can tell if you're from the south. Can you say sails?
Sails.
Like it rebuilds your cells, or something like that. Aaron says here, vibrators were also invented by doctors. That's true. That was
To cure hysteria.
hysteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. All right, on to the next thing.
So anyway, what are we talking about?
We're going into.
So the reason why they were going through such extreme measures is because the average, there was like someone died every day at that hospital, from when it opened to when it closed down. Somebody died.
Right.
So, at least on average, and it was it was open for a while. So it was a desperate situation, whether you're trying to run the place or you're there, unfortunately. Like just a bunch of people were always dying and always in excruciating pain. So when the place was built, or like when it got like its big expansion, they put tunnels in. And originally it was meant for an employee entrance, and to like, get medical supplies. Medical supplies into the hospital.
Talk much.
So, do you know how to talk?
You can get your sales in order.
Get your sales in order. So they had to have a way to bring stuff in, so they thought a tunnel was the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is, because they're trying to boost morale, because that's about all you can do. Mm-hmm. They went, well, we'll take the dead people out through the tunnel, because then like we don't have to, wheel dead bodies through the entire hospital down to the main entrance,
Right.
And just
Which we will talk. We will talk about that.
Yeah,
a
we'll
little
talk
bit
about
more
the tunnels
in just a little bit.
So like they had tunnels.
Yeah.
And eventually what would happen is, like, so many people were dying, there wasn't enough time to like get people out with dignity, I guess. Mm-hmm. So they built the stairs at the end of the tunnel to get up to go into the hospital. They built a chute so that they could just roll the dead bodies down to the bottom of the tunnel, and then whoever was working in the tunnel could pick them up and take them out and dispose of the bodies.
Yeah.
Because it was like over 50,000 people.
Right. Well, they say it was over 50,000 people,
Yeah.
but I think the realistic number was actually around 10,000.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, I know when I saw they said it's hard to estimate, but I heard an estimate that, it was 50,000 people.
Yeah, because I know like
But
a lot of the
yeah.
legends and stuff around it, like they're saying like 100,000, 50,000, like they're all kind of going in between. But I think the realistic, when they go back to it, it's about 10,000 people. Yeah, which is still like, imagine
it's
one
like
place,
thousands of people. Yeah,
one place, 10,000 people dead in a few years. So that's pretty crazy.
In like one of the worst ways to die.
Yeah, yeah.
So all that's going on. But I meant to say, like, so it closed in 1961, I believe. Okay. So, and the reason why it closed is because there was an antibiotic developed, and it's called...
And a vaccine, right?
A vaccine for the viral version, but this instance in this part of American history, it was the bacterial version. So they developed streptomycin that kept the bacteria from growing so the body could heal. And that was invented in 1943, but it took a while to circulate, become popular, and then make it so that like sanatoriums don't need to exist anymore, at least for tuberculosis. So in 1962, from 1962 to 1982, it actually changed its name to Woodhaven. And Woodhaven was a nursing home. But it was also like, it was a nursing home for people that were kind of losing their minds. And I can't remember the specific name, but it was like, if you live in Kentucky, you need to go to this nursing home, not this nursing home, you know.
Right. Like people with like Alzheimer's and things like that.
Yeah, like people with whose mental faculties were deteriorating or something. So, and the issue is it was shut down by the state. The state had to intervene because of like neglect and abuse. So there was like 20 years of that building that probably saw like the most malicious harm. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the first 20 some odd years were, from disease. But, it kind of, the hauntings that are in there, which we're going to get to, it kind of seems like it might have come from that, of like people being like severely mistreated.
Right.
So much so that the state was like, this can't exist. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, now if you look at like the treatments and stuff that they were doing to people, I mean, all of it's mistreatment. You know what I mean? All of it's just like bizarre.
It, like
shit
the building has a legacy of mistreatment.
Yeah, mistreatment, just like misery.
Yeah, because on top of that, there was the year after that was shut down by the state, Woodhaven. There was a guy that bought it. His last name was Todd. I think it was like Kelvin.
Todd.
Todd bought it. Todd bought the
Todd
place.
bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was going to make it a minimum security prison.
Right.
But there was actually like protests from the residents being like, this can't be, like, it was already sanatorium, and then it was this place where people were neglected, and now you're gonna put prisoners there. Like, this place is just like, this is a horrible place that needs to die.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So they like got done whatever they needed to get done to make sure that didn't happen.
Right.
Then in 1996, there was a guy that bought it, and I can't remember his name. I think it was like Abernathy something. I didn't write it down, but that's just from memory.
Abe.
Tell me.
Then Abe bought
They
it.
wanted to make it a church. And he had this whole idea of like, he's going to put this big statue of Christ, and it's going to be like the biggest one in the world. Like,
Sure.
He looked at like whatever one was in Europe. He's like, I'm going to make it 2 inches taller or whatever, you know what I mean? And he couldn't get the funding, so then that shut down. And then in 2001, Tina and Charlie Mattingly bought it. And they might still own it. I'm not sure if they're the current owners. But they were like, we're just going to make this a tourist attraction, make it a history thing, and we're not going to like do anything bad here.
Right.
That was like their way of that. And then it was a concert venue for a while. So like,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
It was a concert.
Job for a Cowboy played there.
Oh, there you go.
Lamb of God, Guar,
Sure.
Hatebreed.
Okay.
There's a bunch of others.
Right.
But it was like an underground concert venue.
Right.
And the reason why it didn't continue is because the residents were like, this is too loud. And it's death metal, and like
The residents, like around the area.
like around the area, like
Oh,
like the local population was like, we don't want to have a death metal festival here. Like we're all old and tired,
Right.
You know, or whatever it was.
Nancy says here, did Nurse Ratched work there? Probably. That's a great show, by the way. If you haven't seen that, go watch that. That's
was
pretty
that what was that based off of, the book?
I don't know.
It was based off of a specific U.S. time period.
Good. Yeah, I think it was the 1920s, maybe.
Okay.
So maybe.
But it wasn't based off of tuberculosis, was it? I don't remember.
I don't think so. It's been a while. Yeah. I remember really enjoying it. I think it was like super creepy good.
Yeah.
But so that's the history back and what the building is done. Let's get into some of the stories.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So this one's
gonna be
pull up
called-
a room. It's called Room 502.
Room 502.
Room 502 is like the most famous room in there. So obviously horrible stuff happened in all the rooms, but it seemed like Room 502, like the worst stuff happened because like a bunch of people died in that room. But also there was a nurse that hung herself in that room. It was a room she was working, and hung herself in the room because she had an unwanted pregnancy with another employee.
Yeah, and she actually contracted tuberculosis as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was like her life fell apart, and she's like, "I'm gonna hang myself. I'm gonna do it in this room." So obviously, you know, that's terrible. And then on top of that, though, there was another nurse that went into that room a few years later, the exact same room, and jumped out the window to her death. And so now when people go into that room, because now it's a tourist attraction, but before it was, there were people that they would go and investigate it. One of the reasons why people were going in with like film crews is because the guy that bought it said he took footage because it was like decrepit and gross and not well maintained. So he was going around with like a camera, like going, okay, this is this room, and we need to redo that, and we need to, you know, get that out of the walls and put in beams here and whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then like watch the footage later for reference and saw like weird stuff. Like saw like, was that a ghost, or would see like an orb or a weird shadow, or thought he saw a person or something.
Right. Which we have a couple of pictures of some of the orbs and stuff here that we're going to share a little bit too. And one of that figure, which is really creepy looking.
Yeah. So anyway, so in this room now, what people say is when they go in there, is that they say you can hear someone say, "Get out," or you can hear someone say like, it's something like, "He'll come along," or "He'll come along eventually," or "He's coming with me," and like stuff like that. So they think it's like the ghost of the lady that hung herself, saying like, you know, "I had this unwanted pregnancy and he doesn't love me, and there's this problem, and like I'm gonna, you know, maybe he'll come around," or something like that. Like you can hear her last thoughts. And also there was one person that said they think the reason why that there's this voice saying "Get out," was because there's this story that the nurse that jumped to her death in that room saw the previous nurse's ghost and was frightened, and perhaps that ghost said "Get out," or the nurse, you know, saw a ghost and went "Get out, get out," or something like that. Was like her final moment, is what some people kind of assume is why you hear those two voices saying those things.
Right. What's interesting about anything like ghost related or hauntings and things is because I think there are like things that we don't quite understand about this whole existence, right?
Yeah.
That like we do have energies that we leave behind.
Yeah, you leave something behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Nanny's guitar when we would play it on, was it Aftermath solos? You'd hear like weird whispers and stuff. We'd be like, "Oh, it's something that's," but you swear you heard some voices.
On top of that too, I remember like that guitar wanted to be tuned in standard.
Yeah,
because
that was bizarre.
Because for 50, 60 years, she was tuning that thing in a standard tuning.
Yeah.
And anytime we would be like, "Oh, let's change the tuning,"
right?
It would go back.
Yeah.
And we were like,
like tune it up.
Yeah, like
which
tune
is
it
strange.
up, which is kind of
not like
loosen up over time.
which is what.
Yeah, it would actually tighten.
But I think that's again, like I said, that thing that we don't quite understand what these energies are, and I think that's why they resonate with a lot of people. I know they resonate with me because, like, again, it's just that stuff we don't get. Like in this room, you can feel this energy. I'm sure there's all kinds of negative stuff that's involved in there. Like when you walk in, it's like when you walk in anywhere, you get vibes and stuff from that room, from people.
It's like, to me, it's like footprints.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's more complex.
Sure.
But it doesn't, to me, it's not like it's less real.
Right.
It's like, I can tell that a person was in this room and be like, "Well, why, how can you tell?" Be like, "Well, I can smell them."
Yeah.
Or
especially when you come into the room.
Or there's hair or skin or something, you know what I mean? Like there's something there. Or there's a butt imprint in that chair.
Yeah.
Because they were sitting in that chair
When
for
Kyle
30
comes in
years.
anywhere, there's always a butt imprint.
Smell. Yep.
And
a smell.
He smells awful, and his hair is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those are my ghosts.
Yeah, those are his ghosts.
Those are my ghosts.
All right. All right, let's move on to the next one.
This one's called Timmy.
Timmy.
I had it written down as the child.
The
But
child.
I think I told you it was
But
Timmy.
his name
His
was
name was Timmy.
Timmy.
So this is weird. So they're at the
So,
time.
real quick, in the picture here, we're seeing like a ball. This is
Yeah.
in the actual sanatorium, correct?
Yeah, there's a ball. So, and I believe it's to this day they keep balls and marbles there because there was a boy named Timmy who liked to play with marbles or balls, or he's just a little boy wanting to play.
Yeah.
So the idea is that he's trapped there. His soul is trapped there, his ghost or something that he has done has affected that place permanently, however you want to look at it. And there seems to be this presence there that wants to play with marbles or play with balls. And it's reported that you can go there and they like keep balls there. And there's one room specifically, and I think it was his room, is you can take a ball and roll it into the room, and like a few seconds later it will roll back out. Now practically speaking, is if that might have been something that little boy did because the floor was a little warped there, so you can roll it uphill and then it goes and then it slowly comes back to you.
Yeah.
So there was someone there that demonstrated that, which would be like a practical ghost, you know, is like this person used to do that, you know, and that still remains. But there was a film, I want to say in the early 2000s that went in and they took marbles. And maybe it's a hoax, maybe they just edited it this way, but the way that they presented it is there's this lady, she's on film, and it's like, it's late at night and they're using like night vision, whatever, but she's got a marble and she's like, hey, little boy, let's play, like roll it back to me. And you see her throw it and you hear it ping, 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 ping down the corridor. And then you hear it like kind of roll around and stop. And then like a little while later, I want to say like it seemed like forever, it's probably like 6 seconds or something,
Sure,
you know what I mean? But
right.
It seemed like forever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because they're sitting there like holding their breath, like what's gonna happen? And then you hear ping, ping, tang, 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 and see the marble rolling back towards them.
Right.
So you're like, that's weird. Like I understand the little physics thing of like I can roll a ball and it rolls uphill, and then after the inertia stops, it suspends for a minute and then comes back down. Like this was not that. This was like they threw a marble and it stopped and it was there for a while and someone threw it back.
Right. Sure.
And it's like on film.
Yeah, and like that story actually also like kind of gets carried on. I think it's one of the things that inspired American Horror Story. With the boy in the attic, you roll the ball and he'd roll it back to you. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been where that came from.
Yeah.
So like I said, one of them is kind of like, oh, that's sad, but one's like, what is that?
Sure.
You know? So they call that like Timmy or the child, the haunting. So-
Rico Babe, thanks for joining us, man. He says, is Wodio Drive in Waverly Hills asking for an imaginary friend? Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, you just gotta convince like the people to come rock out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't want your death metal here. We want it quiet. Bring Neil Diamond. Whoever lives there, I don't know. Okay, so the next one is called The Creeper, or they call them shadow figures.
Oh, this is that cool one where
Yeah.
you actually can
So
see
these,
it here.
yeah. So these
I want
things,
to blow this one up real quick.
these
so you guys can
apparently
see this.
are like, this is stuff that people see all the time.
Yeah.
And they call them like shadow figures, but there's one in particular that's like the most famous one. 'Cause like I said, like people will be like, I think I see a shadow.
Yeah.
That's like a very popular thing that
But check
happens.
this picture out, man. I mean, there's
Yeah.
like clearly something right there, and it clearly is the shape of a person. I mean, even like the way the bottom, like being the feet,
Yeah.
hit the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
But they're all like that. I know I saw some representations of people like making art about Waverly Hills, and it's like you see like this person standing there, and it's like the people report like it's this weird shadow figure thing. But
Yeah.
there are some people that they claim that they see it like crawling the walls as well.
Right.
Like a humanoid thing that can crawl the walls, or it crawls on the floor.
Like a Resident Evil liquor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
But apparently they'll see other ones that like walk around, and a lot of times people say it was like out of the corner of my eye. There's this shadowy figure, and then it was gone. They're usually very quick, fleeting, but this one, they say like seems a little more menacing. There's something about it that like creeps and stalks, because like I said, a lot of the other ones are like, oh, it's like it's the ghost of a nurse walking by or something, you know. But
Yeah.
there's this one that's like sinister.
What's the story behind the creeper?
So they think, like, a lot of people say that it's like the demon of disease, or it's like a demonic force that was there, you know, possibly like convincing the doctors, be like, you need to take their ribs out, you know what I mean, cause more suffering, you know, and like, you know, driving people crazy with it. So it's like, this isn't necessarily attributed to like an event that happened there or someone or a character. It's like, it seems to be this like otherworldly being that resides there because of everything that happened, or everything that happened there happened because of this being or something. It's kind of like the stories behind it.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's like, it's creepy.
It's creepy. The creeper. All right. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the morgue.
Yeah, so this one was weird. And like, I didn't want to believe this because this is creepy.
This actually shows the morgue.
Yes. So there's video, and like there's video of a few people. There's a lot of like, you can go on like TripAdvisor, or you can go on like Google Photos, and like, cause you can go visit this place.
Yeah.
It's a tourist attraction, and people like take pictures, and that's what they put the morgues in. It's like the drawer. You see it in movies, like they put you on, and they gotta store you, and they put you away and put you in a drawer.
Yeah.
So these are like drawers.
Yeah.
So there was this one journalist. There's this journalist. If you can call, everyone calls themselves a journalist. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's this guy with a camera. You know what I mean?
He had a camera and a notepad.
And he went, and then he went, and like with several people.
Sure.
And he's sitting there, and he's got the camera on himself, and he's like, "I'm gonna get in there," and he's like, "I don't know, something's weird, something's wrong. There's like this feels really creepy," and then he's like, "But I think it's all in my head. It's all psychosomatic. Like I'm sitting where a bunch of people died." Like, so of course it's creepy.
Sure.
So he's like telling himself that. He's telling his friends, like, I think it's fine. I think I'm just freaking out. So he hands the camera off to one of his buddies, and they're, you know, they get the shot, you know, and he's like, yeah, he's in there, and they're looking around, and then like, the guy that's holding the camera, like, sees something else, and turns, and he's like, what was that? Because, like, a door slams or something. And then all of a sudden, the guy in the morgue bed just starts flailing and screaming. And he's like, get me out, get me out, get me out. And they run over to him, and it's like, it's on film. And they pull him out, and they're like, what's wrong? He's like, something was grabbing me and like scratching at me. And then this one guy, like, it is really creepy. Like, he said, like, he like had like, he was like a psychic or something, you know, like he's like, I'm sensitive to these things.
Sure.
But what he said, he was like,
which some people are.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to say this to like discredit him, because he said like the creepiest thing is he stopped and he's like, oh, they're trying to get you out. You know, like, because like so many people were like grabbed from that place and thrown down the chute, that like whatever ghost was there was like being like, oh, you've died of tuberculosis, you're in the morgue, I need to take you down the chute so more people don't die. And that was like the thing that grabbed him, and like grabbed him violently, so much so that like it actually scratched him. And it's on the film, like he has like very much like fingernail marks across his front and back, and it's in such a way that like it doesn't seem like you could do it to yourself.
Right.
Like you could do it to yourself on the front, but the way that it was in the back, like it seemed like something did it to him. But like I said, like the sensitive guy was like, I know what that is.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like,
just take a second,
like,
imagine yourself getting in one of those. Like, comment in the comments here. Would you guys allow yourself to actually get in one of those beds and have them close you up in there?
Yeah. Now, like, a bunch of people have.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's lots of photos of, like, and nothing happened to him. But this guy, like, had some weird moment. And, like, I was like, that's creepy. Maybe they could have faked it, because, like, the camera was off him for a second. So if someone was, like, really good at clipping, you know, but they were really good at it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, like, and this was, I want to say the footage is from, like, 20 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Where it was, like, a little bit harder to do edits like that.
Yeah.
Not impossible.
Steve says here, I bet one of their cures was wine in a ladle.
Right.
Rico Babe says, oh, hell no. Nancy says, F no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's scary and it's sad at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was like, oh, it's like, if there are these ghosts there, they're like, we gotta get you out.
Yeah.
Because you're dead. Like, you can't be here. You know? And it's not this menacing, sinister thing. It's this like, this spirit of desperation of like, we just gotta do our jobs. You know?
Right.
So like that one, I read about that one and I saw the footage of that tape and I was like, God, it kind of like breaks your heart a little
Sure.
bit, you know?
Yeah. And Steve here says I'm allergic to confined spaces, so nope.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next one is this is like it's common. It's like it happens in a lot of these stories. It's like people will see orbs in their photos.
Yeah, I've actually personally seen a couple orbs before myself.
This is like a super common thing that they attribute with ghosts, and I don't really know why. I don't know what it is, but there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of photos out there like this.
Yeah,
it's like,
so it's a little doohickey there in the middle if you see that. So that's it moving, and they captured it moving. That's why it's more flat than round.
Yeah, and like I've seen ones of, similar like going down the corridor, and there's like a little like a still orb like very far away in the background. There was one that I saw. I was like, oh my God, that's one. And it was actually like, you could tell it was the flash from the camera because it was on a window. So I was like, okay, that's not one of them. You know, like, but yeah, it's like weird stuff where you're like, what's that? You're like, well, the place is haunted, so it's something. You know what I mean?
Oh, thanks for joining us, JT, man. I know you're late, but like we're still getting into these stories, man. Right now we're looking at this crazy like, it's like you're looking down the corridor there, and you can see like this little they can see me pointing at
like
it.
Like you can point at it.
I can't. Wait.
Can I try to point at it? Where is it?
It's right there.
It's right here?
Oh, it's there. Yeah.
I'm going to go touch it.
Yeah.
But my hand's going to go behind it, so. Yeah.
So, but these orb things, they're common. I've seen them like not just here, but like they're like common with like
with ghost stories,
ghost
or
stories
paranormal, yeah. It's a demon or a ghost or something.
You're right.
Something otherworldly.
Yeah. So of course they're gonna see these things there.
Yeah.
Of course they are. Let's see here. We're talking about nurse? Know what we're talking about next?
Yeah. So right now,
we got this photo here. We
like
see
I said, it's in room 502.
This is going back to 502.
Going back to 502 is that apparently you can talk to one of the nurses that committed suicide. So either the nurse that was hung or the nurse that jumped to her death. And like I said, because it's like people will hear voices of them saying certain things. But apparently now, like people that go there, they report that like the tour guides will like ask the nurses to just do random things. And they said that's like one of the things that like creeps people out the most, because it seems like it will happen. Like whatever is there is like willing to say that they're there. So I know one was like, they'll say like, if you're here, turn my flashlight on and off or something, and then like the ghost will. It kind of seems that like the tour guides are doing it. So like maybe it's like a gimmick or it's this thing.
Could be, yeah, for sure.
That's not something that people, they go and report and they say like, yeah, like I talked to the ghost. They'll be like, I watched the tour guide talk.
Now this photo that you gave me here, is this?
This is the nurses. Some of the nurses.
So one of these.
I don't know if one of these nurses is specifically one of the nurses that committed suicide. But these were nurses that worked.
And just to recap on that too, room 502, a nurse caught tuberculosis. Was actually impregnated.
Had an unwanted pregnancy. It was not by one of the patients, but one of the coworkers.
But by one of the coworkers, and actually hung herself in the room 502. And then later, a few years later, another nurse had come in there and actually jumped out of the window and committed suicide there.
And a lot of people say it's because the other ghost frightened her. Right. Because they didn't really seem like. It seemed like the reports of the nurse when she jumped, they said it seemed like she ran out of the window. It didn't seem like she wasn't there like, oh, should I do it or not? It wasn't like a contemplative thing. It was just like, oh, holy crap, and she ran out the window. Right. So a lot of people were like, it's because she was frightened by something. Yeah. Or she was just very determined or something. Right. It's like something was it wasn't like a typical what you would expect someone.
See, I think that's
committing suicide by jumping
that
out of the
one
window.
on the that one. What is it? Right next to the furthest one on the right, to the middle to the right. I think that is Nurse Ratched. I'm not 100%, but I think that's her. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Let's see here. Now we're talking about the death chute, man. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
So we talked about this a little bit, but this is it.
This is the actual photo here.
So like this at the end of that is like the base of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so there's steps to come back up. And like I said, it was designed to like get supplies in and out. That's where the employees would like go to work.
Yeah.
They'd come in through that tunnel. But then that thing on the side of it is like a slab that they built so that they could like roll people down.
Right, because eventually what happened was they were overwhelmed with just death. So many people were dying. They couldn't figure out a way of actually getting the bodies out of the building. And not only that,
efficiently, and not dragging them through the entire hospital.
Right.
Decreasing morale and spreading more disease.
Right.
Like, because it is a bacterial infection. So if someone's there and, they don't have it that bad, and then they get like a bacterial load from this dead body that just died.
Yeah.
So they did it also to not spread disease.
So they would just basically chunk bodies down this thing.
Yeah.
And they would just go to the end
and they would do
dispose
it
of them at the end.
every day.
Every day, like
every day.
Probably 100 or so a day.
I don't know if it was 100 a day.
If we're talking about like what 10,000 within like a few years. You have to be something close.
10,000 from 1911 to in the 60s.
Okay.
So not that many per day.
So not that many per day.
This is like it was, but
a
like
whole bunch.
At least one a day was the average.
So much so that they had to use this thing instead of actually disposing of it.
Because
normal ways.
You would go to work and be like, I'm gonna have to move a dead body today.
Yeah.
And that was like, if you worked there, you woke up and you were like, that's what's happening today. That was like the reality of it.
Sherry here says, thanks for joining us, by the way, that I want to explore the death tunnel.
You can.
You can.
You can go there. I want to say like tickets like aren't that expensive.
They're actually $1,000 to $1,500. You can do that, and they will provide you with bathroom and board and everything, but you have to bring your own towel.
But that's to stay. That's for a private tour.
Yeah.
You can go. I think you can do a day tour for like $50.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I went on the website and looked. Yes, they have packages, but it's like that's like you and your friends like stay overnight.
Right.
And you're allowed to film, and then I think those tickets are like $1,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think you can just go and get like a day pass or like a couple hours pass and get like a tour guide during the day.
Right. And Steve has a question here. How many of the staff ended up with TV? Do we know that?
I'm not sure. I don't know how many people worked there or how many people. I imagine like a bunch of people did. Like it was a highly communicable.
Yeah, I would assume like a whole bunch. Yeah.
And that that could have also contributed to like why so many people died there. It might have been like doctors and nurses and orderlies and things like that. Yeah.
So we got Sherry Spence here saying that she would go explore. What about the rest of you guys? Would you guys go down here and do that? I think I'd give it a shot. I don't know if I'd be there like super late at night.
I saw one,
but it might be fun.
I saw one person like wrote a blog
about
it, and they said they didn't want to go down the tunnel, not because they were scared, but because they didn't want to have to walk back up the steps. Yeah. But I think you can. I do know like this wasn't on my. Well, I guess it's part of this. Like at the end of the tunnel, they say like people that go through the tunnels like hear like moaning.
Yeah.
And like people crying and things like that. There was one lady that thought she heard piano music, but then it turned out that it was actually a bat that was like chirping.
Right.
Like a bat got caught in there. But yeah, there are lots of people that say like, yeah, there's like they hear voices down there, but it seems like, people's last labored sounds that they're making, kind of a thing. Is what you hear down there.
Yeah. Let's see here. Steve says, I so want to spend the night, which, there you go. It's only $1,000 to $1,500.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
So this is like weird. Like of all the stuff we research and go through,
yeah.
It's like you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and you never really think like, oh, like I could go. Like I Googled it, and it was like, it's not open right now, but it will be open at 9.
Yeah.
If you want to call, and I was like, oh, this is the first time I've ever been like, well, maybe I'll call him.
And of course, Sherry Smith says here, I would love to spend the night. Yeah. And JT Villain says, yeah, that'd be cool. It says it sounds like a trip for the Roshambeaux fam. You know, wouldn't that be some shit?
That would
man?
be pretty cool.
Dude, I used to do like ghost hunting and stuff back in the day when I was like younger, because there's a lot of like cool paranormal stuff like around these parts.
Yeah, around North Georgia.
Yeah, and like just going around and doing all that stuff. We should organize something like that. That'd be really rad. Okay, what's on to the next thing? That's so creepy, dude.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay.
This one is like,
Where they found things.
yeah, so like the contractors or the renovation one.
Yeah.
So like they got to renovate it and stuff and keep it up because now it is a tourist attraction. So there was a group of contractors that like got really wigged out because they said like they'd be working and then everything would be quiet and then they would hear footsteps and dragging chains behind them. And it was enough so that like enough of the people working on it were like, did you hear that? You're like, I swear I heard someone following me, like dragging chains.
Right. Yeah.
And then someone would be like, yeah, I heard that too, like, but I was over there. And it wasn't just like one dude saying that. It was like the group of contractors that day. They're like, something is up, something is weird. We're all here. And like, I don't know if it was all of them, but it was enough of them to be like, something's going on. I heard that too. That's weird. So I guess, yeah, this is kind of just a picture of like, you know, kind of how they upkeep it. You know, it looks a little new. Looks like it looks clean. You know.
Yeah.
And all right, so this next one is creepy. It's the last picture.
All right.
And I don't remember what we named it.
Patient hall.
Okay, yes, because this happened in the patient hall.
This is an actual picture of the place there.
Yeah. So, and I believe this is on one of the higher levels. It's on like the fourth and fifth floor, one of them.
The way the lighting is in the photo, they all look like ghosts anyway.
Yeah. So, so what they did is like they have like huge windows. The higher levels were open air, so they would have to like bring in like heaters and stuff for people because they went like, you need fresh air. You can't be cooped up. You have a bacterial infection that we can't treat.
Yeah.
So you need fresh air.
You're saying like when you're sick,
Yeah.
even back then it was like, don't like just stay in your house. Like you need fresh air.
Yeah. So they were like, so they put the sickest people at the top,
Yeah.
so that they wouldn't have to, you know, so that the well people didn't have to go past them, kind of a thing. But it was all open air. So in one of these, in one of the patient halls, and I don't know if it was the upper floors that were open air or if it was one of the lower ones, but there was a film crew that went in. And they filmed a bunch of stuff, but this one that I thought was like really, really weird is they're walking and they're going, oh, did you see that? And they go, oh no. I think it was the same crew that was like, I think I hear piano music, and then it was a bat. Yeah. You know, it was all like very uneventful stuff. And then all of a sudden this guy stops and he's like spitting. And he's like yelling and like, what the hell's going on? And cursing and spitting. And they're like, what's going on, dude? What's up? And he's like, my mouth is bleeding. My mouth is bleeding. And so they have like, you know, like cameras with lights on them and night vision. And they're like looking in his mouth to be like, did you run into something? Because like all of a sudden he just starts spitting and yelling. And they're like, what the hell? Because he's like, up the ways a couple feet. Yeah. And they're like, maybe he hit his mouth on something, like an old pipe or whatever. And he's like, no, he's like, my mouth is bleeding, something's wrong. And they look in his mouth and they're like, dude, there's nothing wrong with you. And he's like, no, he's like, I taste blood. He's like, I can smell blood. He's like, what's going on? And it was like when they walked into the patient hall where like you would die coughing up blood.
Right.
So like, that was really weird. Maybe he was just a really good actor and he was trying to geek out his friends, but like if he was, he's a good actor. Because like that was like, it was creepy.
Well, it's like we talked about before.
Really,
like
really
there's just
creepy.
things I think that we just don't understand, like how our spirits or energies, whatever we make, because we just see the physical while we're alive and everything. We kind of experience some of the other. But there's things about that we don't understand.
Yeah, it's like whatever. It's like you can either be fully aware of something or you can be kind of aware.
Right.
Like it's like footprints. It's like you can vividly see footprints, or you can go, hey, what's that? I think it's footprints. And I think like there's probably a bunch of other stuff in our lives where it's like we're kind of aware of something,
Right.
but we're not totally aware of it.
Well, and if you want to look at it scientifically, most of the time you have to say this kind of stuff to Kyle because he wants to have like that solid thing. Is you could think of it like interdimensionally. So like something like that we can't actually perceive because within our dimension it doesn't. We can't touch it, feel it, or that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can actually cross over planes, and that's how we experience it. And we experience it through those kind of things, but we don't quite understand it because it's actually over here, which is like a sublayer of here.
Yeah, it's like if you step next to an ant, it just sees like this thing appear.
Yeah.
And because it lives a two-dimensional life, and then something interacts with it, and it goes, "Hey, what's that? It wasn't there a second ago, and now it is."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Steve here says, "What are the angled areas over their heads?" I don't know, but I do like Rico's answer, which is the menu.
It does kind of look like you go walking up to a McDonald's. You know?
Yeah, it really does.
Like, hi, I'll have a cure.
Yeah, I'll have a cure.
I'll have a number 2 cure, please.
Give me a
I'd
little
like
bit
to
of
get
that antibiotic. That's funny.
I'll take the streptomycin, please.
Right.
How much is that?
How much is that? Crazy. But I do like while we're wrapping up on that one, I'd like to bring back this picture of the creeper because I think it's just so crazy looking.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Look at that thing, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Holy guacamole. I know you can't see my cursor, but that is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
Boom! Oh.
Okay.
Now, also, the other sad reality before we wrap up is this building had another 20 years of history of people being mistreated.
Oh, yeah.
That is not really like a big point of research, you know what I mean? Like, you can look up Waverly Hills, and there's lots of documentaries talking about the sanatorium days.
Yeah.
But there is not a lot of information about what did they change the name to? Woodhaven.
Yeah.
Which, obviously was also another terrible situation where, that shadow person, like, if it is this apparition of something terrible and it is this menacing spirit that's there, it very well could have came from that time period when it spawned or originated.
Right.
So, like I said, I don't have a lot of information about that, but it is kind of one of those like haunting, scary, sad things that like after we go, oh, there's a cure, we don't have to have this anymore, then like there's just this other horrible, sad thing that happened for another 20 years.
Sure. Yeah, it's a place of dark, awful history.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of places like that in the world, man. I mean, like probably somewhere local to you, there's some crazy shit going down. Which I do think like we should start talking about more of these things. I really enjoy these topics because again, like getting into the ghost hunting thing when I was younger, getting back into it. I really like hearing all the facts, all the weird stuff, man.
Yeah, y'all let us know what you guys want to talk about as well.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying these story-based podcasts.
Stories.
Story-based
Story.
podcasts. We'll call it that. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to like change the description.
And we gotta become get Kyle to be a believer. That's what we gotta get. But also before we wrap this thing up, and I wanted to talk about that they had plans to turn it into a hotel and a restaurant / a conference room.
A restaurant.
Yeah.
That's gross.
So it's going to be, and it actually got approved by the city council in 2020, February of 2020. So I think they are actually going through with that.
They're going to serve food there now.
Yeah, I think they're going to do food and like it's a hotel.
It kind of makes sense. You're like, we're making this a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for almost 20 years now. So why don't we serve food? And we're already letting people stay here. Why don't we let people stay here more often? Business-wise, it makes sense.
It's that whole thing. Like, I mean, like we were talking, like, all you guys, like, you want to go. Like, I think I could do it. I'd be scared. I'd need somebody to hold me. Maybe Sherry, because Sherry seems like she's tough.
I tell you,
You have to like convince me not to be so scared.
I'd feel a lot better about it if I like, just got out of the pool and had a nice continental breakfast and we're like, all right, let's go ghost hunting. You know what I mean? Like, it probably wouldn't be so scary. I'd probably be like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Aaron says here the tri-state crematory should be a topic. I'll have to look into that one.
Crematory. It's like where you're cremated, not like.
No, that's where you make.
It's not like a dairy farm.
That's a dairy farm.
The tri-state, like.
Creamy.
That's creamery.
I know. I'm just joking.
It's creamery. I had to sit there and look at it a second, and I was like, you want to talk about like dairy cows?
Yeah.
Like, that's we'll do it. I'm gonna write it down.
Write it down.
Creamery.
Write it down.
Crematory.
All right, let's
Totally
see here. But before we get our last final thoughts on everything, if you guys have final thoughts, make sure you leave in the comments and we will get to them. But before then, I didn't put in the new thing.
I sent you a new one.
It was like days ago. I just remembered.
I sent you a new one. It was so funny.
Oh my goodness.
We'll do it next week. We won't ruin
Yeah.
it. We won't say what it is.
Okay.
I did make a new one, correcting the error.
The error that is here in the area of but we do have merchandise available over there on storefrontier.com/Roshambeaux. Go check it out. Most sizes are in stock. We've got t-shirts in different colors, different designs. Since they are print on demand, they allow us to actually supply different shirts, different colors, different cuts and everything, and have them all in stock for you guys. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeves, sweaters. There's even like baby onesies on there, I think, man.
You know what? I think you guys have to let us know if you want to do this, but I think we can get like athletic pants made.
Athletic pants?
Yeah, like joggers.
Yeah. I like joggers.
So I have to look into it, but I swear that I saw that was a thing. So if you guys want something like that, let us know, and we'll try to get a design.
If we can find them, I think we should do Roshambeaux booty shorts.
That would be cool.
That's my gig. I think that would be a whole thing. But what's our final thoughts, man? I mean, I think this is crazy. My whole thing is I definitely do think that there are things beyond the physical that we don't understand. And that whenever there's a concentration of negative energies focused into one place, it can create echoes. It can create things that just like reoccurrences because it's so much that was like condensed into one space. And maybe that's a thing, like maybe that could be a misunderstanding of time. So we're actually seeing replays because time being like the same thing as space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like you're just looking over there.
So it's possible that maybe that's what it is. And when there's so much of that energy and emotion and stuff that's put in, it creates these weird crunches of time and space. And
I tend to agree. I think basically the same thing. To me, I don't necessarily look at it as like if there's negative energy, it's stronger. I think that if there's like consistent energy, it's stronger to me. Where it's like, because I think like I play your nanny's old guitar, and I feel like there's a powerful ghost in it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's filled with negative energy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I feel like it's filled with positive energy.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there's like a difference between like that it's more powerful if it's negative. I think it's the same. It's like when you go into some place and you're like, whoa.
You're like, man, what is this?
It's amazing.
I feel something here.
Yeah.
And I think that is because of human activity and of humans that are no longer with us.
Right.
And I think someone told me, they said, one day someone will think about you for the last time and then you'll be dead. But only then will you be dead.
Yeah.
Because you are living on in someone else, and it is a very real thing. It's not just this thing that we say where you go like, oh, like I live in that person's thoughts. It's like it's a very real thing because like you physically did something to someone to make them remember you, and you physically sat in that chair and it's got your butt print in it, and you played
How's
that
obsessed
guitar.
with butt prints?
You know, yeah, or you played that guitar 50 years and it wants to tune itself to standard. You know what I mean? And like those things, to me, those things are very, very real. So to me, like ghosts are very, very real. I don't necessarily think it's like
Casper.
You know, like Casper,
Yeah,
or like it's all has to be creepy. But I think like there is a very practical, real, physical explanation.
Yeah, I think even if there's like a positive imprint, that it's just, I think it's because it creeps us out because it's something we don't understand. It's like anything, you know what I mean? It's like, what is that? I don't know. JT says here, energy is a powerful thing that I don't think we understand yet. Absolutely, I think so. And before we wrap this up, we want to remind everybody to go over on Patreon and check it out. You guys are the reason why we're able to continue to do this. People like Sherry over there, Steve, Nancy. You guys are the reason we're able to continue to make content like this, put out videos like we're doing, which again, it will be probably next week whenever the brand new one drops. But there will also be a brand new one that drops publicly that's about 6 months old. Mm-hmm. Which one's coming down?
You know, I just wrote it down. I put it in the blog. We might have to look that up.
Okay, look it up.
But I legitimately can't remember. There is one coming out this month.
Yeah, there's one coming out probably next week publicly for everyone that's not on there. We don't want to hold back the content for you guys. But if you guys support what we do, consider going over to patreon.com/Roshambeaux. Even for just as little as $1 a month, man, we give you guys a shout out and give you all kinds of like cool like like exclusive merchandise and early access to things like that. The $5 thing, you get to put in your request for the covers, and we release a video to you every month. We produce, do everything with the song. And for $20, you do a backstage thing, so we actually send you guys like things that we're up to, pictures, and try to like lay out the things that we're doing, creating, and then there's a monthly call thing. So we're grateful for all you guys that are on there, and we just love the shit out of you. Even if you're not able to go on Patreon, we totally get it. We still love the shit out of you guys. So keep being badasses.
So the song that is coming out on YouTube this month is Crazy.
Crazy.
A cover of Crazy by Gnarls Barkley.
Okay, yeah. We've done that one actually live a couple of times.
Yeah, this one actually did make it to the live show.
Yeah.
And I love how it turned out. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, all of them are fun, but this one, it's got a special place in my heart, for sure. Yeah.
So our version of Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, that's going to be coming out next week, but the new one, I can't tell you guys.
We can't tell you what it is, and you won't know unless you're on Patreon.
Unless you're on Patreon. For a little while, we'll put a trailer. We'll do little trailers, but oh my god, I'm so excited about it. Rico Babe says here, a good van philosophy topic, if not covered, would be dimensionality.
Dimensionality.
Write that down.
I'll write it down.
Write it.
I'm gonna write down the creamery one too. That sounded fun. Oh. Dairy and cheese.
Rico says, "Dang, I thought you guys did Patsy Cline. Hey, I'd do some Patsy Cline. I'd do it." But I think that's going to do it for us, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in here and being with us. Again, if you have ideas for different topics like dimensionality and the creameries.
The crematories.
The crematories.
I want to do one about creamery now. Be like, don't you want to know how cheese is made?
You know, how the laughing cow cheese is made. But if you guys have other suggestions, let us know. Go over on Facebook.com. It's like there's a group on there, the Roshambeaux fam. Yeah. I know most of you guys that I see in the live chat here, you guys are on there. But if you're not on there, go join up.
Our post-show recap on from like right when we got off stage. In Oysterfest. Like,
we went live for a minute.
Watch that.
You can see Steve stare at the camera like because he thinks it's a picture.
You know,
pretty awesome.
Someone says like my Wisconsin is showing.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing we're talking about cheese. Like there actually was this place. It was like a tourist place where you could go like see and learn how cheese was made.
Yeah.
And you could buy like I remember you go to the gift shop and you could buy and it was like come to Wisconsin and smell our derriere. You know, like funny little jokes like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was actually like, you know, it's been done though, so I don't know if we'll do any.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
They do it too well.
Anyway, thank you guys for being here with us. We love you guys so much, and make sure you guys tune in back here on next Thursday. Will we be doing this thing again?
We're doing something.
We're gonna figure it out. We might do it on wormholes, might do it on creameries, or crematories. Or just cream in general.
Crematories.
Could be episode 37, Cream.
Like the band?
Like the band.
That'd be cool.
Could be the whole thing.
Them.
Yeah. And we hope to see you guys out at a show. We hope to see you guys in the chat. We hope to see you guys up with the fam. We hope to see you guys over at Patreon. We love you guys so much. Take care. See you next Thursday. Woo!